Good morning. Today's workshop is discussing implementing instructional strategies for reading and analysis of complex text. My name is Kianga Lee, and I will be assisting you through the process. Today's objective is to discuss best practice for implementing English language development strategies within the classroom, and the goals are to provide and create resources for Envision Academy's ELL and RFEP populations, as well as to increase ELL and RFEP's ability to analyze, discuss, and comprehend grade level text. Before we begin looking at any information, I would like for us to first put our attention towards official data. We are looking at SBAC scores or CASP scores from the years 2017, 2018, and 2019. Now, in order to truly assess our ELL's progress, we need to look at where we started from. So in 2017, we had a population of 11.2 students, and we had 100% progress that had been made. In 2018, our ELL population was 13.1%, and we see a variance in our scores. Level 4, 46%, level 3, 18%, level 2, 26%, and level 1 at a 10%. So again, if we are making a comparison between years 2017 and 2018, we'll probably say we are in the middle of the road in regards to how our students were succeeding on the CASP test. In 2019, we had 15.1% of our population were ELL students and a 64.6% progress towards English language proficiency. With that being said, we can give a rough estimate, which is saying 40% of our students were unsuccessful in meeting the marks for state expectations. So, again, looking at 2017, 2018, and 2019, we are seeing that we were at the top of our peak in 2017 with our ELLs making some tremendous progress. 2018, we're in the middle of the road, and at 2019 with 15.1%, basically we're saying 50% of our students were successful, and that other 50, I'm lowballing here, 50% of our kiddos really needed some additional supports in order to meet the average range. Now, looking at that data, we want to look specifically at what are we going to do in the classroom in order for our students to be successful. Well, first things first, we want to look at what are state expectations. If you are looking at the chart to the left, and we are speaking specifically about middle school students, our sixth graders are going to want to be at the MET. So we are going to look at the right-hand side where it says on track. Our sixth graders should be beginning at a 925 Lexile score. Obviously, we want to have some students that are exceeding, so we want to have a buffer there. So our 1075 Lexile score would be for those students who are exceeding the mark for state standards. If we have students that are reading at 555, 560, all the way up to a 920, those are the students that we really want to put some additional supports with. They are falling far below or have not quite met that marker of where we want them to be. Seventh grade as well. If they are reading at a 625 all the way to a 965, they need additional supports. Eighth graders, 660 Lexile all the way to a 1005 Lexile. Those are kiddos who really need some extra supports in order to show some progress within the classroom, and obviously on regular assessments as well as state assessments as well. So how can we best support? Well, if you're looking to the right of the screen here, I have 6 text that, as I was researching, happened to be texts that are specific to ELL learners. Now, I have used these in my classroom before and had no idea that they have been pulled from state standards and national standards and have been set aside to say these particular books have some strengths in them that definitely will be able to help our ELL students succeed. So the first is Holes, then Ghost, the Egypt Game, the Weston Game, A Long Walk to Water, and Esperanza Rising. Now, obviously, there are a wealth of additional texts that are out there that can be used in the classroom, but these are some books that I pulled because I have actually used them myself. And so with that being said, I wanted to look at a few of some resources or some additional activities that I have used in the classroom with my kiddos in order to strengthen their reading. First and foremost is Holes. If you are familiar with the text, it is also a film that Disney took upon that addresses a coming of age for young boys. It is set in a youth detention camp where the young men are trying to find themselves and are looking to kind of solve some inner issues within themselves. So, in order to provide some more in-depth understanding for what the children are learning, I provided them with this worksheet. We read chapters 1 through 5. And with that, I am pulling out academic language that I think they should know in order to be successful to answer questions. So those are what I have listed at the top of this page. They are bold print and they give the definition. So we read them before, I talked about them. The students had collaboration. They read it themselves independently, but oftentimes, as we all know, students will rush through a text and still not be quite clear on what it is that they are reading. So this gives them a running document of a dictionary of sorts right on the page that they can refer to at that moment. On the left-hand side of this particular worksheet, you also see that there are reading comprehension questions. So I read the text. As I said, they've read the text, but do you really know what you are reading? Well, here are some questions that are aligned with what you read. So if you are able to answer this correctly, I know for certain that you do. How was Camp Green different from Stanley's idea of a camp? So we are using all different types of skills here, not only reading comprehension. You are inferring, you are looking at the character, his or her perspective, and giving me a response. Why did some campers allow themselves to be bitten by scorpions or rattlesnakes? If you did not read that section, if you could not infer that content, then you cannot answer my question. To go back to the top of the page where I am speaking about vocabulary, I also have some additional concepts down at the bottom of the page in order to strengthen that as well. So I'm not just giving you as I said, a running record of sorts or a dictionary. Now I want you to do some practice. I want you to go in, use that term, and show me that you have the ability to create a cohesive sentence that makes sense and is aligned with what we have been speaking of thus far. And then, as I stated, you just go on and on and on with different types of questions. And it does have here, infer one reason why the warden is not nice to the campers. What point of view is this story being told from? How do you know? So an open-ended question where the student truly has to think within themselves. Why would you be giving this response? Why does the character feel this way? Why would the author have the character feel this way? And what is the point of providing that or having that in the text? What does that carry over into the following chapters and the rest of the book to come? Another text that I love to use is A Long Walk to Water. I align this with 6th grade and 7th grade social studies, where we are jumping into ancient Africa and try to have a transfer into what the geography of Africa is like and discuss that through this text. So in order to do that and provide a deeper understanding, I have the students create some journaling pieces as well as some summaries that provide them with their own little encyclopedia of sorts before we get into the unit. So when we are talking about Africa, the Sahara Desert, we are talking about different biomes. They truly understand what struggles these individuals were going to because they have seen those concepts throughout prior to us getting into this actual text. So again, reading comprehension, when we are looking at the Dinka and the Nuer tribe, and we are saying that they are struggling as refugees, again, walking through the Sahara Desert, going through dense populations, being attacked by lions. They truly understand that because we have done research. They have done research and been able to get a visual as to what it is that these individuals in the text have experienced. So if you are looking at this worksheet that I have in front of you here, what you are seeing is a workup of all of the different things that I want them to learn. And then they have an area, as you see my mouse is going, they have an area to write notes as to everything that they have learned thus far. And I will click into one of these articles. We're going to read about the Dinka tribe. So as you see here, I have linked some information about the Dinkas, and they are expected to read it. For an ELL, this is probably the middle of the road ELL, those that are on their way to become RFEPs and are RFEPs, okay? Not super dense information, very to the point. They should be able to read this, each one of these sections within 2 to 3 minutes, and then provide themselves with their own summary, okay? So language, folklore, religion, major holidays, rites of passage, relationships, living conditions, and so on and so on. So again, when we get to the text and we are beginning to read about these particular characters, it has meaning because they have been able to read about them before. They comprehend the region, they comprehend the religions, that these individuals are Muslim, because we have talked about that before. But again, if they do not have a solid base, if their ability or inability, to understand material, and they cannot create context clues with the information, that the historical information, and then align that to non-fictional text, then again, I know that I have some work to do. I need to go back and understand, is it that my students are not connecting it because they do not understand the vocabulary? Is it because the information, it is so foreign to them that there is no alignment going on in between the topic and the context? So all of these things will help me understand better how to best assist my students in the learning process. When we then go into discussing, your typical worksheets that you may pass out in the classroom, or you may create, or as I am showing you on the screen, these are worksheets that I have been able to download from readworks.org. You are looking for assignments that are stretching your students' ability to read. So I picked a article here. It is called "Is Big Tobacco Out to Hook Kids?" The great thing about ReadWorks is that I am able to refine my search for specific articles. Now, if you have used ReadWorks before, I am not saying anything brand new to you, but if you have never used this particular online database of reading resources, it is phenomenal. I can go in, I can pick 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. I can specifically say that I am looking for ELL learners, and it provides me with a wealth of information all different types of articles, as well as extension activities. Now, that is the awesome thing. Not only am I getting, as you see here on the left-hand side, not only am I getting the article, I am also being provided with questions that have been created specifically for CASP testing. So these are the types of questions that our students will be seeing when they are being assessed, whether this is for CELT, whether this is, for their basic testing in order to now be assessed as, or now to be claimed as an RFEP student, regardless of the testing or the assessment tool. This is what we are expecting our students to know. So again, just to reiterate, this is an actual sixth grade text. Is it possible that I have a sixth grader who is reading at a fourth grade level? Absolutely. So what I can do in the ReadWorks database is find a fourth grade article. I don't want to overwhelm my student with something that I know that they cannot do, but I do want to make sure that they have the skill. So again, I am going to go into this database. I may be looking for a fourth grade reading level. I may be looking for a second grade reading level. I may have a newcomer, someone who is brand new to the United States. I am going to be looking for a kindergarten article that I can find that, again, still provides the opportunity for our students to exercise their understanding of what they have read, for us to assess their fluency, for me to see if they understand metaphors and similes, for me to see if they understand figurative language. All of these tasks, and again, state standards, requirements for state standards, they all fall under articles as such. And as you see, once again, the articles on ReadWorks, they have pulled out advanced academic language. These are words that we are expecting our students to be able to know. Okay, so instead of being a friend, I don't want you to say she is someone who has supported me. No, now my students know that they can use the word advocate. She's not the person who came to support me. We have used this term now in the text. Now they have a word in their belt in their internal dictionary that they can use. She is my advocate. So that is what we are hoping for. And I've written down at the bottom, using these types of articles, the students are using critical thinking skills. They are getting phonemic awareness, fluency. They are learning context clues, syntax, main idea, author's point of view, claim, and also being able to find the thesis statements. Okay. And another thing that I would like to add as well, with these ReadWork links, for your students who are having difficulty with fluency, who are having difficulty with pronunciation, specifically our ELL students, the passage is it is capable for it to be, the students can have it read to them. So I will just put it on for a brief moment so that you can hear it. But again, if you would like students to have the opportunity to hear the English language in the way it should be spoken, this is a great tool as well. And then to have them go back. Okay, so making sure that we are going back full circle and having the students then read it to you.
Is Big Tobacco out to hook kids? By Dan Risch. Teens are working to make underage smoking a thing of the past. Teens across the nation are burning up about the number of young people who start smoking each year.
All right, so as you can see, she is reading the entire text. And then again on the side, just in case you have your supervisor comes in and says, well, how does this relate to anything you are doing? Right here on the side, it gives you the state standard, right? So this is reading 1, reading 2, and reading 10. You can be very specific and say, this is exactly the standard that I was hitting. That the purpose of me providing this article to my student is because I wanted them to know this, this, and this. On the top, I know I said that this is a 6th grade article. It is, but I happen to hit 7th as well. So it is aligned actually with 6th, 7th, and 8th. Okay, and awesome. If you go back to the Lexile chart, you will also see if your student has the ability to read this article. and they are capable of reading a 1060 Lexile, any Lexile book at this particular level. You can use this also as an assessment piece. Now, I've done a lot of talking. I want to stop for a moment and really talk about academic vocabulary, academic language, because this is where our students get hung up the most when we are talking about assessing and making sure that they are capable of moving forward in the next year. Okay, so what I would like for you to do, I want you to use the Is Tobacco Out to Hurt Kids article to create a closed reading activity for advanced or RFEP students. Now, you're going to ask, why didn't you ask me to create one for our newcomers, for our level ones, twos, or threes, or even fours? Well, I'm wanting you to do in between your 3, 4s and your RFEPs. The purpose of this is because we know that mostly our RFEPs, they are reclassified, and then their support they lose it. We believe, okay, so they have it, and then they are struggling. They don't get that same support as they were getting prior to being reclassified. What we want to make sure is that they stay in that position and do not decrease in their ability to understand the English language. Our 3s and 4s, we know they are so close. If we just give them a little a harder push, we can get them over the line and make sure that they are successful enough to pass that assessment, and then they will become officially an RFEP. So those are the ones that we really, really, really want to work on, our 3s, our 4s, and our RFEPs. Am I saying that our EOs cannot use this? Absolutely. Any of these strategies that I am about to show, they benefit every last student in the classroom. But our students that are learning the English language, we know that the transfer between languages, there is always some difficulty. Our Spanish speakers, they have it a little easier because there is a lot of transfer in between the English and the Spanish language. Many words are kind of aligned with each other. But if we have students who are Vietnamese students who speak Vietnamese, we have students who speak Mandarin, we have students who speak Cantonese, there is a big gap in between how the English language transfers to their home language. So we have to be very cognizant of how we present English language development, and that we are very clear on what is important and how we can get our students to actually grasp what we are trying to say and make the connection in between the linguistics of their home language and the linguistics of English. So to get back to my request, I would like for you to create a closed reading assessment for your students. To give you a better understanding, I did provide an example over on the right-hand side of what that looks like, but I am aware that it's a little blurry. So I will just explain that for you. When I was younger, I did Mad Libs. If you are familiar with Mad Libs, is what Mad Libs are. It is a kind of fill in the blank activity where students are given a word bank. You could have 20 words, you could have 10 words, you could have 5 words, you could have, 100. But what it is you are creating a paragraph or a passage, maybe 3 to 4 paragraphs, where you are leaving space open for a student to plunk in a word. Many of the words may be similar to each other, so they really have to look at the word in the sentence in context in order to make sure that they are providing the right term for the right sentence. This lets you know, again, are they reading well? It also lets you know if their language ability to understand language is there. Do they have the skills for vocabulary? If not, we need to go back. Maybe we need to look at morphology. We need to see if students understand root words. We need to see if students understand prefixes and suffixes. All of that comes into play when we do an activity such as a closed reading assignment. So again, I do have some outline questions here for you. And the first for me would be, how can you how can you adjust this activity to support beginning ELLs? So first of all, I wanted you to create it for your three, fours, and possibly your three, fours, and possibly your RFEPs. But I also want you to think about your ELLs, your beginning, your newcomers. Are there barriers to students attaining the intended objective? What additional resources can or should be provided to maximize gains? All of that is important when you are thinking about anything you are creating for your students. You don't need to make busy work. There's enough things for them to do already with the curriculum. But what you want to do is to make sure that they are successful. On your left-hand side, these are the kind of ticklers that you should be looking at when you are assessing students in general. So step one, step two, and step three. Code it, your closed reading strategy. How do you figure out what to do? Ideas or claims with which you could agree, or to annotate, as well as to have a soapstone. Okay. So all three of these questions that I have placed in the middle, this will help support you in preparing your activity. You can create that in a Google Doc, a Quizlet, an Edpuzzle. Either way, I have no preference, just as long as it is in a format that is easily accessible to your students. So I'll give about 5 or 10 minutes just to begin. We're not going to finish it all today, but to give you 5 or 10 minutes, just so that you can get an idea of what works best. You can probably do a pair share with the partner that you have at the table. You guys, talk back and forth to each other and see if possibly there's some room for some adjustments, or possibly this looks great and your partner is giving you a pat on the back and saying how awesome your assessment piece is. Either way, please take some time at this moment to begin creating your closed assessment tool. Perfect. Now that you have come back with an actual activity that you can use with your students, I also wanted to show you some additional strategies that I have used with my kiddos. Again, none of this is new. If you have been teaching for more than 2 seconds, I am pretty sure that you have seen each and every one of these in a classroom. You have done it when you are doing your practicum and are probably using these in your room in some form or fashion. But I just want to reiterate the importance of all of these tools to an ELL learner. We must provide visuals. They have to be able to see what you are saying. Language, the English language, is not their strong point. So in order to reinforce what you are trying to say, you must make sure that you are providing some sort of pictures, imagery within your classroom. On the left-hand side and on the right-hand side, you will see 2 worksheets that say main idea in the right-hand corner. But on the left-hand side of both of those documents, you will see pictures. I have used these with my 6th and 7th graders to reinforce what main idea is. So not only do I want them to be able to do that after we have read a text, I am going to do this before we even begin reading a book. I want you to look at a picture and tell me what could possibly be the main idea of this particular image. So in the first one you see here, there are students, they are throwing balls at the teacher. The teacher is grabbing her hair. In the next one, there is a child that is crying, and Ronald McDonald is behind the child with a smile. So we are making inferences here. We are doing a cause and effect, giving me main idea, also story elements, and possibly fact and opinion. All of these things are state standards that I should be completing by the end of the school year. So, my goodness, I have wrapped up every last standard in one activity on one worksheet. So, let's look at the first one. The teacher who is pulling her hair. What can I infer? Well, I can infer that she's probably having a bad day, especially since I see that the students are throwing balls of paper at her. I'll skip over to story elements. Well, who are the characters? The characters are children, or if I want to be specific, students. I know that they are students because I see a chalkboard behind this lady. And now, because there is a chalkboard behind this lady, I am going to make the assumption that she is the teacher. So the setting is the classroom. Well, what is the problem? Well, the problem is that she's overwhelmed. She's overwhelmed because the students are throwing balls of paper at her. What is the solution? That she gets some better classroom management. Okay, so let's jump over to the other worksheet where I have Ronald McDonald. Ronald McDonald is all the smiles. I have a child that is running in tears. What could be the cause and effect? Well, again, I am using transitional words. I am making inferences. Well, the cause could be the child is afraid of Ronald McDonald because he is a clown. The child is scared because their parent or her parent left her with a stranger. The child is afraid because she is scared of the jumpy. She is scared of the paint on his face. She does not like clowns. There is a multitude of examples that I can give here in the cause of effect. The child is crying. That is the cause. What is the effect? The effect is this great big clown that is behind her. Fact and opinion. The fact is the child is crying. What is my opinion? My opinion is that she is crying because of the clown. Now, if I really knew the child, it could be because she's just tired. Or it could be because she fell down. It could be because the parent is leaving her and she actually still wanted to play with Ronald McDonald. So that there are many different varieties that I can pull just from showing my students an image. This is the same thing that I will be asking them to do to transfer, right? If I am capable of getting them to understand that with just an image, then I know I can transfer that same knowledge, that same capacity and ability when we read a text. Okay. Up in the middle, we have a KWL chart, as you can see here. What do we know? What would we like to know? And what have we learned? Well, I used this during the election, the Donald Trump election, quite some time ago. So the students wrote down, what do we know? These were the things that they wanted me to list. And this was, what would we like to know? These were the questions that they wanted to know as we were going through our information. What have we learned? Well, I didn't complete the entire thing, the entire chart here, but those were some, I made sure, as you see, I am very big on vocabulary. That was the first thing I wrote on this document, new vocabulary. If they don't understand that there are different parties, then they don't understand why we are having people talk about Democrats and we are seeing a donkey. We want to be sure that, we understand the difference between there is colors for the different part. There's red and there's blue. So then what does a Democrat, what do I stand for? What does a Republican stand for? What was Obamacare? Why did they keep talking about that the whole election, during the election process? What is the Constitution? What are the primary? I have primary here, but what are the primaries? What is the point of all of that? So in order for the students to truly know about the process of getting a new president, they have to know the vocabulary. There's no way that we can move through the process of speaking of this in history class or in social studies without them having the foundational concepts of what it is that we are discussing. So again, reading comprehension. If we have not focused on vocabulary, they are just reading words and have no context of what it is exactly that they are reading. Lastly, as I said, there must be visuals. So I have these up in the classroom anchor charts. I actually use this with second graders, but when I taught 0 period ELD, for my students. I had many newcomers that were brand new to the United States, and I can't tell you how beneficial this chart was for them to not be only to be able to see the word, but also to understand exactly what it is that I mean. Tall versus small, runny, what something looks like, pretty versus ugly, bright versus something being loud or something being quiet, stinky versus something smelling really good. So making sure that you have some sort of visuals in your room. Please go back to the thoughts of when you were in kindergarten, or if you have the opportunity, please do reach out to some of those beginning elementary school teachers. Everything that they are doing in the room is exactly what you need to be providing to our ELL students. They are imagery rich. The students are learning how to read with images. Children who you are reading bedtime stories to in the middle of the night, as you are reading, they are scanning those pictures back and forth. They are looking at every detail on that page. So in order to provide support to those who are just beginning to get some learning concepts of what English is all about, the pragmatics, you must make sure that you have those available to them. Word walls. You have the English language, you have Blackboard, and then right under it, I am going to put pizarrón, or I have tiza, chalk, lápiz, pencil, silla, chair, all of those things that you think that is too elementary. No, you need to make sure that you are providing those translations. Just like with our parents, if we are sending out flyers to our parents in English, we are not sending out those same flyers in English to our Spanish speaking parents. We are making sure that we translate that and provide them with the same information in their home language. So please be cognizant of that in your classrooms. If you are not a native speaker or have the ability to speak the other language, that you are at least giving them the basics: bathroom, baño. They need to be able to tell you, I have to go to the bathroom. So you need to be letting them know those words, the transfer of those words, so that they have the ability to communicate with you. Also, having opportunities for students to write. So great, you can read. Now I want you to be able to write. Again, you are able to look at these prompts, and I usually do these as a morning message or as an exit ticket. So just using the first one, suppose you had invented a time machine, write a story about what you did with it. Well, you have to first be able to read the question and be able to understand what it is that I was saying. Then when you can do that, then you are able to write something down, in response to what my question was. Now, how does that lead into writing? Well, as I am writing, I am rereading what I wrote. It must make sense. I am not slapping sentences all together and there is no cohesiveness. So in order for my response to make sense, I have to continue to reread what I wrote. That is reading comprehension in a nutshell. So we can't take writing out of the element when we are speaking about reading comprehension. We have to make sure that we are providing opportunities for our students to to write. Okay. And again, it goes into many different types of narrative questions that I have used over time. Imagine you could travel to the future and live there. Think of what you think the future would be like. How different would it be from today? Now, write a story about living in the future. Again, they have to be able to read the question and understand what it is that I'm asking. If I give this to a newcomer, they have no clue what it is that I'm saying. So I know they cannot read the English language. But if you have the ability to read that and respond, then I know you have the basic foundations. Another strategy that I use in the classroom is taping my students. So as you can see, I have a student, a young girl right here who is sitting in front of a book, and I have her read to me. I do this as a reading record to see her ability to read the words with fluency.
Story, but nobody knows the real story because nobody has ever heard my side of the story. I'm the wolf, Alexander T. Wolf. You can call me Al. What? I know I don't know how this whole bad.
I also have students tape themselves and have them read into, in this specific situation, they are reading into my cell phone. Please use your technology. If you have students who actually have cell phones in the classroom, I know that typically we do not ask for them to take them out. But as an assessment piece, if you have the opportunity to do so, especially for those that are learning English, they need to hear themselves. Audio is a great tool. Have them read a text, have them listen to the text. You read it to them also and tape it, and then have them listen to it. They have to understand the pronunciations, right? The intonations. If I am in Mexico, there is a whole different intonation in the way that I say certain words versus to if I go to Spain and speak Spanish there. So I am listening to how they say certain words, because then I change my tone, my inflections, in the way that I say things change. So if we are trying to make sure that our children are saying words properly, especially and I keep honing into Spanish because I do speak Spanish. Our students will say their V's and B's incorrectly. So we have to make sure that we are showing our mouths so that they see how we are forming our lips in order to say a particular term or word. Again, so listening, having some auditory opportunities are vital for English development.
The ladybug asks, "Where is Curry? Where did it go?" And Bess asks, "Where is Curry? Is in under where? Where is Curry?" asks.
As you can hear, he is a native Spanish speaker, new to the United States. This was taken his second academic school year, but you can hear his terms. Curly. The term is curly. The book is called Where is Curly? He is saying, he should be saying ladybug, but because of Spanish, he is saying ladybug. Boog, because the the U sound is an oo sound in Spanish. So lady boog, as well as curly, curly. So when you are speaking with students and want to make sure that they are pronouncing correctly, again, they must hear it and they must also see your mouth. Now, obviously, we're in COVID right now. That is a little difficult with your mask on, but I know many people are using like a shield in order to do that, or they have masks that are for like the visual, those that are hard of hearing. So there is a space available. There's a clear, almost like a plastic section where students can see you speak in order to form their mouths correctly. I also read to my students and I tape it. I tape some of our novels for them to use if they have homework. So I will post these in my Google Classroom if they had a homework piece and I don't want them to take our classroom text home, because as we all know, sometimes they don't come back. So I will read the text to them, then they have it in order to do whatever assignment it is that I have asked for them to do. So I will just have a little snippet of myself reading so that you can actually hear what it is I previously just said.
Chapter 23, entitled Movable Type. We had another long day at the center. When I came into the kitchen to make spaghetti that evening, there was a stool by the stove. It was like everything else Cecile brought into her green stucco house.
Again, super simple. I taped myself on my iPhone, got the image of the textbook, found that on Google, pasted it into an app, and then there we have it. The students then have this is an entire chapter that I am reading to them. Now it is accessible. Again, no reason why our students should not have the opportunity to hear literature on an ongoing basis. Use your tools that you have. our phones have so many things on them. That is one of them that I definitely would say teachers should use on a more consistent basis. Here's another whole class activity of students, just to give you an overview before I click on the video. They are or were working on the Neanderthals and speaking about and learning about how they communicated with each other. And in the process, as you will see once I click play, their history books, their textbooks are on the floor. What they learned was that they communicated with each other through cave paintings. And so they had to read that entire section. These are sixth graders. They had to read the entire section on art as well as language, cave Neanderthals pre-language, and how they were able to communicate with each other. Now, in order for them to be able to complete this task, they have to understand what they read. And as a group, this is a collaborative activity, which is also an ELD standard, that they are collaborating with each other. They are conversing, they are reviewing material, and then having the ability to take what they have gained from each other and actually make it into a project or presentation. So here we have it. I will hush my mouth for a moment and let you take a look at this.
Okay.
All right, so the students are learning that they often used handprints. The handprint was the actual signature. So you see some of the students on the floor, one of them was tracing their hand because they said that at the very end, they wanted to make sure to put their hand on there because they were the artist. Then students discussed how they were going to put horses on there, and that many of the cave paintings had people in hunting stances. So there were hunting images on the walls. There were also pictures of big mammoths and animals. And so all of that is wrapped around their ability to read the text. If they are not able to understand, and many of your big curriculum out there, Macmillan and all of those, Pearson, they always have a section inside of their portals that provide opportunities, some extension activities for students who are either on the lower scale of their grade level, as well as for students that are ELLs. They also have documents that are translated in English. Now, unfortunately, I have never seen any documents translated into any other language, just Spanish. But nonetheless, that provides you with an opportunity to do a transfer. Yes. So if you are speaking of the information, you are speaking about it in class in English. I have done this multiple times. I have on my Promethean board the entire chapter in English. My 3 or 4 students that are specifically Spanish speakers have their computers open with the portal open with the same chapter. They are on the same page as I am on their computer. It is just translated for them in Spanish. So they are following along with me because I am making sure I'm using, like, the little jumper, the marker, where each word is highlighted as I go across. They are following along with me on the board as they are also looking at it in Spanish. Now, we also have individuals who speak Spanish who do not read Spanish. That's okay too. It's provided to them there is an audio. It's audible. So all they need are headphones, and they are looking up at the board as well as looking down on the screen. They are listening to me just as if they are in a board meeting. We're in the UN, where someone is speaking another language in the front and everyone else from another nation is listening with earbuds on and following along with the material. Okay. Other opportunities are breaking your information down into smaller components. This is how another way that I work with my stronger students. So my fours, my 3-4s, and my RFEPs, this is definitely something that I would do with these students. And as I'm about to click, this is Jeremy Lin and Gabby Douglas article that I broke down into a smaller component. So if you give me one moment, you will see here, I just made this into a Google Doc. So I used an app called Newsella. And if you are familiar with that, then it is another online database that has articles that are individualized or specific to specific grade levels. So instead of giving my students, I saw that they were having some difficulty. Instead of giving my students and this is Jeremy Lin here, giving my students the entire article, because I was seeing they were getting very overwhelmed. In Newsella, there is a section where you can assess students. It has multiple choice questions. And so it rates them immediately. And I was getting the scores back and they were not doing well. So I was understanding that, first of all, I think either the text is too dense or they truly don't understand the academic vocabulary. So in order to provide them with some additional support, I take the article and break it into each paragraph is its own section. So here we are. This was the title, and then here was the first paragraph. And as you see where my mouse is going, what I want them to do after they read each one of those paragraphs is give me the gist. What is the main idea of this article? What is the main idea of just this particular paragraph? That's all I want to know. Then we go to the next paragraph. Give me the gist. The next paragraph, give me the gist, and so on until you are done with the entire article. And then at the end, once you've already made all of your notations, right? So each one of these sections had notes. So when I get to the very end of the article, I should be able to summarize all of my thoughts in 2 to 3 sentences. So not only did I give you the article, I also gave you a place to almost take Cornell notes, right? And then now you are taking those notes and creating a summary of sorts. The next component is making connections. Is there a time when you were treated badly? So now I want you to think about your own personal connection to this article. And if so, tell me what happened. How did you feel? This is another, you read it, how I'm connecting your own personal experiences with this, and I want you to write a response. Your written response also tells me that you are able to read and comprehend. Okay. The Gabby Douglas, same thing. It was the exact same type of activity, breaking it down into smaller components and then having the students give me a summary.
Story, but nobody knows the real story because nobody has ever heard my side of the story.
The next thought that I would like to bring up is, now you have seen the strategies. We've worked on an activity. You created your closed reading activity. You've seen how anchor charts are beneficial. You've heard me say how anchor charts are beneficial. You've heard me talk about how you need to use imagery in order to support English language development. Now, what I would like for us to do is to look at Envision Academy as a whole. Looking at the LCAP goal for 2019, LCAP goal number 1 for 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. This is our focus. The goal was to increase the number of students ready for college level coursework. Obviously, that's what we're here for. We're here to teach students and to make sure that they are successful and they come back to us telling us how great life is, right? So the projection was to increase percent of students who score met or exceeded on the CAS SBAC by 57% in literacy and 19% in math. I made sure, even though we are talking about ELA right here, right now in English language development, I made sure to not take that little portion of math off, because we often forget that many of our students are struggling in math because they cannot read. They can't read the questions. They are not able to comprehend the questions. So in order for them to be successful in any subject, they have to have strengths in ELA. Okay, so the projections were 57%. What was the actual? We increased percent of students who scored met or exceeded on the CAS SBAC to 46% in literacy and 20% in math. So you had an increase by 1% in math, but you were down 11% from what you were hoping, your expectation in literacy and ELA. Your LCAP goal, number 4, for 2019 was to increase services and support for your lowest performing students. That included English language learners, African American students, and students with special needs with IEPs and 504s. Your projected was 60% of ELLs will score early advance and advance on the CELT and the LCAP. You were able to do that. That's great. Your other projection was you increased the redesignation of EL students to 50% annually. You were able to do that as well. Great. But we also we don't want to be stagnant. We want to make sure that each year we are making gains. So how can we do that? Well, we're going to move into our next activity. What I would like us to review is a document that I created that will help you create more curriculum. So not just an activity. The activity is great. That's a starting point. But now we need to dig our feet in, get our claws in the tree branch. We need to make sure we actually have an outline. We don't just want to talk about how we're going to help support them. We need to really have some guidance here as to how we're going to make that happen. So I've created a document called Curriculum Planning for English Language Learners. Again, this is going to be for 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. Now, if you're a 6th grade teacher, that's for you. 7th, get your 7th grade standards. 8th grade teacher, then this is going to be working for you. But I just put 6th, 7th, and 8th here because we are speaking on middle school in general. I've been doing a lot of talking right now, and there may be a lot of questions. I want you to know that there is a virtual parking lot available. I did create a Padlet for any questions that I may not have addressed at this moment that are on your mind, and I've just been running my mouth and you would like for me to discuss them later. The Padlet has been made specifically for that purpose. So ELD curriculum support, I've asked you to leave additional questions, ideas. You may even have some things I have not even spoken of or concerns that were not addressed in my presentation. Please put your responses here in this Padlet, and I will try my best to get back to you in an email or at a future meeting. It may be so great that I actually make it the topic of the next presentation. So please make sure that you add that in this particular space, and I will make sure to get back to you at my earliest convenience. All right, so the logistics of this document are, again, as the title of this particular presentation is, to learn how to implement instructional strategies for reading and analysis of complex text. Okay, and I just put the LCAP goals on here again so that you could have that. You can revisit it as you are beginning to place your information. As a reminder, this is where we were at in 2019. We don't have 2020 goals because we were in COVID sanctions. But we do want to make sure that when we start talking about 2021 scores as well as 2022 scores, that we are seeing some progress. We don't want to have great dips. All right. So what we have here are guiding questions. I want 6th graders, 6th grade teachers, 7th grade teachers, and 8th grade teachers to look at what skills are needed for your 6th, 7th, and 8th graders to be successful on the CAS, the LPAC, the CELT, or any other benchmark assessments. What do they need to be successful in reading, in listening, in speaking, or in writing? please fill in these tables with information that you as their teacher or as their administrator believe to be of most importance. Okay, and again, this is for sixth grade. Place that in this table here. Seventh grade, you have your own table. Eighth grade, you have your own table as well. Then we're going to move down with the same concept. What foundational skills are needed for sixth, seventh, and eighth grade ELL learners to understand complex grade level text? So I really want to be clear here. The first one is what skills are needed for testing, right? The next one is what foundational skills are needed in order for them to understand grade level text. So yes, once they take the test, they need to know figurative language. They need to know a little bit about narrative writing. They need to know a little bit about argumentative opinion writing. But when they come into my classroom first day of school as a sixth grader, what should they have already learned in fifth grade? What are they coming into my classroom with? What skills should they have that I do not have to review? I should be able to jump straight into a narrative writing piece and they know exactly where to begin, right? They know what is a topic sentence. They know how to add key details. This is what I am asking for you to place in this section. The next question that is posed, what resources are necessary for teachers to guide the process of students becoming independent learners? So what do you need as the teacher in order for your students to be successful? And I want you to really go out of the box here. If it is a resource that, requires money, at this point, don't even let that be a hindrance. Put in this box exactly what you think you would need without limitations that you would use in your classroom as a resource for your students. Next, I would like you to name 2 to 3 long-term goals for Envision Academy's RFEP population. So again, I want to make sure that we do not see a dip from those students going back into the hole if we have already reclassified them and said that they have some pretty good English development skills. We want to make sure that we strengthen those and keep them and push them, if possible, closer to our EO students. So what are some goals that we can have for these kiddos in order to make sure that they stay successful? And discuss ways in which the teacher, you, and the school can support continued growth with ELD. So what could I provide? What can the principal provide? The head of school provide? What can the community, for that matter, provide in order to make sure that our students are staying on task and being as successful as they possibly can? And I know I keep using the word success, but that is what we are doing here. We are trying to make great global citizens that are going out into our communities and are able to communicate with individuals without feeling as if they do not have the skill set in order to do so. So it is our responsibility in order to create that package for them that they are able to pull from, regardless of the environment that they are within. Now, the second component to this is filling out a document that gives you resources right at your hands, right? You go to so many presentations, so many conferences, they give you all of this information, and oftentimes it's great at that moment and then you never revisit it. This is not what I want this to be. I want this to be an opportunity for you to have a living document that you can come back to whenever you need it and find tools and strategies that, I forgot that she talked about that. I can use that within my classroom because that is specifically what this particular student needs. That's what I am hoping that this this document becomes for you. So I am creating an example. This one is the example for you. Reading skills and knowledge. The student should know how to use academic vocabulary, academic language. I've been hitting on that since we started this morning. The student should also be able to decode CVC words. They should have a knowledge of context clues. They should be able to identify main idea, claim, supporting evidence, author's voice, proper grammar and syntax, cause and effect, problem and solution, compare and contrast, and figurative speech. That's all of the things I have discussed since the very beginning. Some beginning with images, some with them writing, some with them telling me, some with them creating some sort of project. Either way, we have to look at the way that we approach assessment tools and the way that we are guiding instruction in order for our children to attain and retain, that is the key word, and retain the skills to be a fluent English speaker. Okay. We also want them to be able to comprehend grade level text. Now, will this always be? Will I have a newcomer who comes to me in sixth grade and at the end of his academic year with me, he is reading at the sixth grade level? Absolutely not. I would be foolish to say such. However, my strategies are in place to at least bump him to a first or a second, if at all possible. Probably a first. Okay. Really, really thinking about the possibility. Kindergarten, he's going to be starting at a pre-primer. So a kindergarten, my hope is by the end of the school year, that newcomer is able to recognize and be at a first grade level, because basically that is what I am saying to kindergartners. Maybe not kindergartners of now, but kindergartners of yesteryear were coming in with very minimal letter recognition and ability to read. Now, we have children going to Head Start, preschools, they are having private nannies, all of that goodness, and they are already coming in with the ability to read. So with that being said, that's showing us that our structure must be strong in middle school. If we are saying that children in kindergarten are already coming in reading, some, not all, but they are already coming in with the basic foundations to read, then we must have a strong outline on how we are going to progress these children, these students, through their academic year with us. Okay. Now, apps and digital tools. This is on the right-hand side. I just leave this here because I often hear of all of these awesome portals, awesome apps that people are using, and then they've said it once and then I forget it. And maybe I have fiddled in it once at a training and it's great, and then I forget about it. So I make sure to I'm always screenshotting. I'm forever screenshotting awesome things that I find on the internet, especially for education, so that I can come back to it later and use it. That is what this is for. So Epic Books, a variety, all different Lexile scores. Your sixth grader is coming in reading at a ninth grade level. Great. There's no excuse as to why he can't read, because there's books there. Imagine Learning, that is for our EL learners. They can get in there, and that one is great because it translates. It has about, I want to say, 30 to 40 different languages in the portal. So this is one you definitely want to use with students who are out of the norm. Russian, I believe it had Vietnamese, it has Mandarin, Cantonese, Arabic. So Imagine Learning for any Punjabi, for sure. Any of those languages that are, I don't want to use the word obscure, but are obscure to our staff that we have available. This is something that you would want to provide to students and make sure that they have access to. Dogo News. Dogo News is an app that gives student-friendly news articles. So you're giving a sixth grader, you're going into CNN and finding an article about, the newest election. It's a little too advanced for them. Dogo News, you can go into there, find the exact same article, but it is kid friendly, right? And you can get the same bang for your buck with what is provided in this particular portal. Illuminate Education, which is on the bottom. I love this for a assessment piece. The questions, if you have never used Illuminate before, the questions in Illuminate are spot on to what they will find in the CASP. So as the teacher, you can create your own mock CASP for your students. You can even pull different standards. So you can see if you, as the teacher, that's your own assessment tool. have I been teaching effectively? This has nothing to do with the kids. Have I been teaching effectively? Because we've now done a whole month on argumentative writing, and for students to be able, let's say, author's purpose. We've done a whole month on this. Now I'm going to pull questions out of these question bank and have my students test. If they all do poorly, then I know my teaching was not as great as I probably thought it was. So I need to go back again and do some reteaching. Yeah. Newsella, as I showed before, they have many articles here for grade levels. This one also does a Spanish translation, but not every article is in Spanish. Not everyone has a transfer, but there are a multitude of Spanish articles in Newsella. ReadWorks, we've already worked with that before in our first activity. Student opportunities, again, for reading, I am making sure that I am providing as many fun opportunities I try for my students. Board games, right here in the middle, you'll see Scrabble. I am huge on board games because the kids don't really understand that they're learning. They think I'm giving them a free opportunity to play, and that is not what is going on. What is going on is they are actively participating in a game and having to read. They have to understand what they have read. I have context clues games that I have purchased from Lakeshore. I have cause and effect games that I have found on Amazon. Inference games board games that I have found at Lakeshore as well. The one in the middle is Scrabble. Once again, on this advanced vocabulary, I will place a dictionary on each side of the board, in the hopes that the students will use those when they get stumped on a word. So I'm doing two things. I'm making them use phonetics, and I'm also making them use their research skills. Actually, and one more thing, I'm making them be able to let me know if they have the ability to spell, right? All of that, writing, reading, all of that has to do with your vowels. So if you can't not even spell the word, how are you going to be able to pronunciate that when you are reading it in a text? So Scrabble is a great one. My students will put things on the board that put things. Now I'm talking about academic vocabulary and I'm saying things. The students will put the tiles on the board, and they are words that are very simple. So for example, they will say 8. And if they are playing with me, many times they don't want to play with me, but my advanced students definitely do, because their whole goal in life is to try to stump me, right? So if they say 8, ATE, I will say, oh, that's a great one. Is there a way that we can take 8 off and maybe use another word? Because I can see on the board that it has a possibility to do so. My advanced ones will go, oh, I don't know. And I'll say, well, there's an O here. What other word do you think that you could make with an O instead of saying the word 8? So now we're going into grammar, right? I'm talking about synonyms. So instead of 8, we came up with the word consume. So all of these types of games, please do not think that, and I know many administrators, they walk into a classroom and they see this and have no idea what is going on and think that the teacher is just taking a day off. That is not what is going on. What is happening is children are actively learning how to spell. They are getting advanced vocabulary. They are also learning how to communicate, right? And they're learning how to collaborate with peers as well. On the left-hand side, this young man right here, he, in this particular picture, is a 7th grader, and his reading level is extremely low. So we were starting at the basics with him, just understanding what vowels are. So here, this tiny, almost a puzzle piece, it has a spinner here for him to count how many ways he's going to go across. And then there's a picture there. The picture, it could possibly be, I believe one of them was a toast. So it's a piece of toast, but it has T with a blank, with a line in between, and ST on the end. So he has to tell me what vowels go in there. Toast, T, blank, ST. If he pulls it back, it will say OA, right? So then this one is almost an independent worker. I don't have to actually be there for him to do it. He just needs to play the game himself. But I do sit there because I want to make sure to validate that he can do it. So toast, T blank ST, toast. He looks at it, then I put it back down. All right, now tell me, how do you spell it? TOAST. Perfect. Honestly, with your beginners, they're not going to say it that quickly. They will say we are fluent in the English language, so we take that for granted. But your beginners, they are going to have difficulty retaining that information because this is brand new to them. So TOAST, this whole little puzzle piece, as I will continue to say, has opportunities for them to learn vowels, which then help us move into words, right? We're jumping in with the assumption that we are having students in our seats that already have foundational skills. That is not always the case. As this young man on the right here that I am circling with, he has zero English ability in its written form. He is capable of communicating. You would have no idea that he is basically illiterate. But when it's time to read, he was not even able to know that his name was on the board. So in order to help him, I am beginning again with those kindergarten skills. I cannot say that any firmer than you really must match up with someone who teaches in elementary, because they can provide you with some support. So these little tiles that you see in front of him are images. Once again, my favorite, images. He has a bat in front of him, a boat in front of him, a van in front of him, a sandwich in front of him. All I'm asking for right now are beginning letter sounds. Well, why this young man also is in the 7th grade? You ask me, well, why would you start there? He's in 7th grade. Well, if he can't even see his own name in print, I know that letters are my beginning point. He has no concept of letters at all. So I have to begin at the basics. He needs to understand that a sandwich starts with the letter S, not with the letter C. A boat begins with the letter B, not with the letter D. And I say that because we know in the very beginning, our students have difficulty deciphering between a B and a D. They think both of them are the same as P and Q, right? So these are the types of activities when we are talking about reading and providing opportunities for our students. We have to think we have to go out of the box and think about how we learned English ourselves. Okay. If you have learned a second language, especially if you have learned it as an older person or as an adult, you know all of the things that helped you through the process probably were images, repetition, and hearing it. You speak to older people who came to the United States as an adult. It sounds so funny, but it is so true. Many of them say, I learned how to speak English by watching soap operas, right? The audio, the repetition of hearing someone speak then allowed them to be able to take that transfer of what they heard into now what they are capable of reading. Okay. So now, as I just stated, I provided you the example here of my expectation to fill out your chart. And then just to go a little, I moved forward very quickly, but iPads as well, that has audio, read alouds, which is what I did at the very beginning. I was showing you, I read to the students. Journaling, they must write. Readers theater, where it is banter back and forth. They each have a character and they are reading a part to each other. And then at the end, we come up with, well, what happened here? We are having whole class discussion about the scene, for that matter. Okay. And then the online reading resources that are listed above. But now I would like for you to complete the remaining portions of this document. So the writing section to be done exactly like I did at the top, the listening section, as well as the speaking section. Now, where did I get those from? I will scroll back up very quickly. That is what we discussed at the top. Those were your guiding questions, right? So what skills do they need for reading, listening, speaking, and writing? Now you are pulling down here in this section and you are putting in, well, these are the skills that they should have. Now, where are you going to get this information from? Your state standards. So that's going to take you a moment. Everyone needs to go to California's state standards, and for your particular grade level, have an overview of what it is that they are asking you for, and then think, the standards are so wordy, but in a year's time, what are the skills that they need? Just, you're pulling out the key details. What are the skills that they will need by year's end? Place them here in this section. And then if you should so happen to have apps or digital tools that can make that feasible for you, that is where you list those here. Okay. And then student opportunities. All right. So now you have the skills, you have the tools. Now, how are they going to be presented in the classroom? What activities and assignments are you going to provide or have the students do in order for them to accomplish all of these skills in the writing section? Okay. So writing, listening, and speaking. Okay. And then on this last portion, this is your organizer. This is your organizer to say, on this date for this student, we focused on reading, we use this tool, and this is how they were either successful or they need some more support. Okay, this gives you a running record, and you could possibly just do a one sheet per student. That would be my preference, actually, instead of having random names on one. I have loads of binders for each child. That way, when it's time for parent conferences and such, I can pull this out. I already have a running record. I have my data available to me as to their progress. It's also great for report cards. Then you're not having to remember, were they successful on this? Were they able to? You can go right into the report cards, click, click, click. Or if you're, writing a short response to the parent, there's no guessing, because let's be honest, we have a lot of things on the brain. We have lots of kids, and sometimes it merges. But if you're documenting effectively, there's no reason as to why you cannot provide additional supports for IEPs, for 504s. All of this is great data that you can be collecting over time in order to help you best support your students. Okay. All right. So again, that closes out my talking portion, and that was a lot, but you have a lot of work to do here in reference to finding some strategies, looking at your standards. That is key. And remembering that we have ELA standards as well as ELD standards. And all of those ELD standards are talking about collaboration. They are talking about the use of digital resources. They are talking about making sure that students are getting exposure to different genres of writing. They are talking about making sure that students are having exposure to the opportunities to read, and to also having it, as I already said, to listen, to having books read to them. Fluency is an important keystone. So in order for that to be possible and made possible, and to truly give a quality ELD program, we have to make sure that we are connecting all of the dots, that we are transferring all of those skills that we are expecting our EOs to have, that we are making that same expectation to our ELD, our ELLs, and that we are also holding ourselves accountable for whether we are providing a quality service to both sets of populations. So I ask that you just dig in to this activity, that you have an open mind as to how you are going to be able to present information, that you are willing to partner with others, and that you are willing to just take the ride and be vulnerable, because this is hard work. It is going to take some struggles. It's going to take some falling on your face. And every time you do an assignment or an activity, it's possible that the results may not be what you are expecting. However, the fact of the matter is that you are putting forth the effort. for our children. And it is important that they are graduating with the skills necessary to be productive. So, once again, I thank you for your time. I thank you for the work that you do with students, and I thank you for participating in today's presentation. Have a great time gathering all of your thoughts and information. And if you have any questions, please do feel free to get in contact with me. Thank you.